If you're a longtime viewer of my videos, then you know that the TMNT movie from 2014 was one of my first on-camera reviews.
What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my review for the 2014 reboot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Wow! I look and sound so dead. I hope that I have brought more energy into my movie reviews in the past, almost 2 years since I've done that review. Anyway, what is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my review for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, which stars Megan Fox, Stephen Amell, Will Arnett, Brian T., Laura Linney, and Tyler Perry, and is directed by Dave Green. Now, the plot does follow our title characters, as this time around they are up against the mad scientist Dr. Baxter Stockman, played by Tyler Perry, as he creates a retro mutagen while also having the help of an old enemy of the Turtles, Shredder, played by Brian T. Meanwhile, the Turtles do get their hands on some of that retro mutagen and find out that they could possibly become human. Going into this movie, I pretty much had the same expectations that I had going into the first movie. If you saw my review for the first film, you'd know that I didn't hate it, but I also wasn't a very big fan of it either, given how I thought it was very forgettable and just pretty lackluster all around. This is coming from a casual Turtles fan when I was much younger, and I do still enjoy some of the property today, but in terms of the movies, the Turtles have been treated better. This film did look like it had some promise going into it. How was it? Let's run down the whole thing. One pro I can give this movie right off the bat is that our title characters are given a lot more to do this time around. This is aided by the actual performances given by the actors, providing the voice and physicality to these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're given a lot more personality right from the beginning and also have chemistry that they did have from the first movie. Also returning are some human characters from the first film, such as Megan Fox, of course, as April O'Neil, and Will Arnett as Vern Finwick. They are pretty much the same characters that we know from the first film, although I did cite Fox as a strength of the first movie, believe it or not, and Arnett as a complaint of the first movie, given how annoying he was. This time around, however, they are both downgraded to supporting roles, to my surprise. They do something in the film, but they also really are not given much to do to really have them be more compelling. Some of the new additions do include Laura Linney as the Chief of Police and Stephen Amell as Casey Jones. Laura Linney, it's surprising to see her in a movie like this, but she plays this hard-as-nails Chief of Police who gives Amell's character a very hard time after a transport gone wrong. But I don't know if she really did have much of an impact or if her performance was really that believable. Amell's performance as Casey Jones is a welcome addition. I really like this character. Unfortunately though, like Fox and Arnett, Amell is really underutilized. I really liked his charisma and the energy he brought on screen as this character, and at first it looked like we were going to have him get a lot more screen time with the introduction of his character. However, there is just not a lot to see with him, as he is just relegated to a supporting role like Fox and Arnett. Sadly as well, the villains don't improve from the first film. Shredder has been recast to the actor Brian T., and at first it was going to look like he had something to do given how there was an emphasis on his character in the beginning of the movie, but that gets quickly tossed aside. Baxter Stockman is played in a really ridiculous manner by Tyler Perry. This really didn't seem like much, especially since he is cast aside for a lot of the movie too, even when he is introduced right off the bat. Yes, there are other players in this movie too, such as the actors who portrayed Bebop and Rocksteady, and another villain I will not spoil in case you haven't seen some of the most recent footage, but for Bebop and Rocksteady, like Perry's portrayal of Stockman, I just found him also to be just ridiculous, and frankly, they got on my nerves at times for just saying the same annoying things over and over and over again. So overall, the cast here really only improves with the title characters, and for a movie like this, I guess that's what really matters, but it would have helped to have more compelling supporting characters too. I did hope that this movie would improve in the writing department, but that doesn't really happen here. I think the plot here is just as really lazily written as it was in the first movie. I can excuse the first movie more given how it's an origin story and we're supposed to believe how these characters came into fruition and how they're supposed to be set up in future sequels if they happen, which it has. But with a sequel, there's supposed to be bigger stakes and more menace to be had, especially from the villains. That doesn't really happen here. The first couple sections of this movie do focus on our title characters getting more development, which I did cite as a pro with this movie, as that is a welcome thing to see. However, I really didn't see much happening to be very interesting with the villain side plot and with April O'Neil and Vern Finwick, who gets a really weird plot line too. I will say that this movie does try to bring new ideas into this story, but for every new concept that does try to happen in fruition, there's something around the corner that brings it back down to square one and not really have any improvement over the first movie. There's also a lot of fan service to be had with the TMNT property in this film, which I know for longtime fans of the TMNT, they will be pleased to see what is on screen. But that affected the plot negatively as it went into a subplot that really didn't seem like it had any payoff. This involved that mystery character who I will not give away once again, and it made all the other subplots just seem like they were amounted to nothing. The Turtles had a subplot that again involved them trying to toy with the idea of becoming human, bringing up the cliche messages of brotherhood, family, what it means to be yourself. That gets dropped really fast and doesn't have a lot of payoff either. The really lackluster writing also went to the humor of this movie, which I really found to be non-existent for the most part. I hardly laughed, and it's not from the Turtles themselves. They had humor that was at times funny that made me give a little chuckle every now and then, but for some of the situations that they put themselves in that also involves the supporting characters, I was either rolling my eyes or just accepting what it was and really didn't find it to be all that humorous. The pacing also gets thrown out of whack a lot too. This movie is running at almost 2 hours long, and I really did feel the running time at times. Technically speaking though, that's where some of the strengths from the original do carry over into this sequel. The action scenes of this movie are all well done again, well shot, easy to follow, and visually striking. Some of the visual effects in this movie really did pop out to me. That being said though, there are some times where the excitement is really lacking, even in some of the action sequences, but it's most glaring with some of the downtime that is involved with characters and some of the dialogue they have with one another. Some of it just didn't seem believable either, and I really wanted to see just more progression. My final thoughts on this movie are that there are some improvements to be had with the sequel compared to the original, but overall, I really didn't find that much difference with this film compared to the first because of how lazy the writing was and the lack of focus in the direction. Yeah, the Turtles do get a lot more to do, and yes, the action remains as enjoyable as ever in this sequel, but the lack of really any depth with the supporting characters, the humor that really wasn't there, I hardly chuckled again, and the depth didn't make me just as invested as I wanted to be, and it made me feel like I was watching the first again. I think that if you're a die-hard Ninja Turtles fan, there is something that you can enjoy with seeing some of these characters pop up again from either the comic or the cartoon. But if you didn't enjoy the original film like I did, there's really not much here that will sway your opinion towards positivity. My final verdict for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows is 2 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.